Hey, Gretchen, how are
Hello.
you today?
Good, Keila. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very well. I think I'm going to
Good
put
to
this up
hear.
really quick so while we talk for a minute. Um, I'm so excited about our guest today.
Me too.
I'm
Although,
really excited.
admittedly, I don't. I was saying in our chat that I don't know her very well, so I'm looking forward to getting to know um Ximena better. So yeah.
I know, and she is amazing. And only I can tell you this because I um, am in one of the groups, Reese's Facebook group. I mean, her YouTube membership, and we get to do Zoom once a month, and we got like a 3 hour Zoom. And
Hmm.
I'm talking. If I've ever seen someone, hey, love it. Hey, everybody in the chat, we're not ignoring you. We're just trying to get everybody. We're going to do Q&A afterwards. So if y'all have a question, please put it on there because Kathy. Oh, thank you, love it. Kathy will star them and we will pick them up afterwards. But I got to
Definitely.
know her about she was very adamant about boundaries. And I'm like, how do you, I, I know, I mean, I have a degree. I know it's easy to say that you know what they are.
Hmm.
However, and making them, keeping them, and what to do when you have to interact that comes close to those boundaries, she was so knowledgeable in.
And I think another component of that, which it could be, I can't wait to get this discussion started, but really and I know a lot of us struggle with this, is when you have a certain type of boundary or lack of boundary or unhealthy boundary with someone, how to start to put that in place. And sometimes, I mean, obviously, if
Yeah.
people aren't used to you doing that, there can be quite a reaction to that, you
That's one
know?
thing I'm gonna when I'm gonna get to at work. I They're so used to me being their buddy,
Hmm. Yeah.
and outside of work, and some of them do not know what. Um, yeah, I need to fix my mic setting. Hang on, I knew that was wrong when I come in here. 1 second, I'm sorry. I'm going to tell this that it can't do itself. Okay, now is that better, y'all? Anybody hear me better?
It's kind of going in and out a little bit.
Because it's got my wrong deadgum audio is why. Come on, really? I thought I had. How about that? Is that better? Is that any better? Wait.
Now we can't hear you at all.
Oh my gosh. Why is this not working?
That's better, I think, right there.
Yeah, it
You
has.
just sit really close.
No, it had the wrong mic on. It had my camera mic.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. It. I don't know why it defaulted to that, but can you hear me better now?
I
Is it
can. How does
okay?
everyone else
In
feel?
chat, can you hear me better now? Love it. It's only because
Yeah.
my computer picked the wrong StreamYard picked the wrong one.
Oh.
Okay, if that's better, then at least if you can hear me. Okay, thank you. All right, thanks. So,
So, um,
yeah, but
I don't
at
know, what do
work,
you think?
putting those boundaries and making them keep them is hard for me. It's really hard for me because before they could walk all over me. So my therapist told me, she said, it's not that hard. You said it, they do it. And when I started using that politely but assertively, not aggressively, I said it, do it. Wow.
Yeah.
So we got.
You know, and I'm thinking even of, like, in my home, with my family, my, immediate family here with my husband and my son. It's like as my son gets older too, I realize he's allowed more privacy than when he was 3, as he
Right.
becomes a teenager, like knocking on the door before you enter
Mhm.
a bedroom, like that kind of thing that I think just subtle things that, but
Yeah, it
I
is.
mean, not maybe they're not so subtle, but
We have a
um
19-year-old, it's like, okay, so, she used to have to report. Well, I mean, he can track her on her app on her car, but I'm just saying, like, he doesn't do that anymore. He
yeah.
even gives her that space because he could easily do it, but he doesn't. Even he'll sit here and worry to death. I'm like, she's fixing to be 20. Got to
Yep.
give some boundaries. I
Yeah,
said, you gave
kids
her
in the
roots. Now
home.
you got to give
Mhm.
her some wings.
Yep. Adult kids in the home, that's a whole different situation, and how do you negotiate those boundaries and guidelines to
And
interaction
I
and
think our guest is really going to be good for this. So without waiting anymore, I'm going to let you say her name.
we're very excited to welcome Ximena.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Oh,
Okay,
you're
wait,
on
you're
mute.
muted.
Yeah,
You're muted. There
Hi,
you go.
how are you? Thank you for having me.
good.
Thank
How
you
are
It's
you?
an
for
honor to
coming.
be here. Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank you
coming.
for joining us from a different country, right?
Yes, I'm from Mexico.
So
And
you're joining
Guadalajara.
us from a little farther south. Welcome.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you so much.
And the reason I wanted you is, you and I, we put 3 hours in one Zoom meeting, one Zoom call. Pretty,
Yeah.
you got me there. You hooked me.
Thank you, Keilah.
I liked what you said.
I was just talking about my experience. Like I've been dealing with this topic actually for boundaries for 5 years since I started my therapy. So I just been practicing them a lot. So I was trying to pass a little bit of my experience to Kila and Reese and all of them who were talking there. And
Well, you did you made a good
yeah,
effect on
it
me.
was. I think it was a good advice because they loved it. So uh,
Yes.
I'm glad it helped.
No, yeah. You were the one that, I mean, you gave me things to think about and things to start implementing. It's hard as they are.
They are.
But
Yes.
you were so determined, like, no, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, you know your boundaries. So thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that. And I hope
No.
everyone here in the chat will get a little piece of that and bring home with them.
Thank you for inviting me. And hi, all of people in the chat. I see a lot of familiar faces. So thank you for
That's all
being
right.
here.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, I told them all I love them all. We're gonna do the Q&A after and get to talk to everybody after. But we really wanted to get you on here because I know Gretchen has got some things that to start this off with, and I would love to listen for a minute.
Great.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I just wanted to start with, like I said, I'm glad that you're decided to join us today and talk a little bit about this. Really an important topic, obviously. And a lot of people have problems with boundaries, or maybe they're good with boundaries in this part, but over here they're not, right? Like they have good professional boundaries, but at home, not so much in terms of healthy. And I want to make the distinction here as we're talking and framing this conversation. It's not necessarily that there is I mean, there are certain healthy ways we can um, do our, set boundaries, but also a lot of things come into context here, like relationally, how, culturally, how people interact. That can all make a difference. I remember I was studying in Spain at the time, like in college, and like there was no conception of like a line. Like I was used to here in the US where like you give people space, like physical boundaries, right? Of space. And it was just kind of like people really come like the physical boundary is much closer in different countries. So I learned that and just adapting to that, understanding those things. And then respecting your own boundaries. So um just wanted to start with if you could describe a little bit about kind of where you started with the idea of like how you learned about what boundaries are for yourself, or how that kind of started for you, either in childhood or as you're growing up.
Yeah. So I think growing up, it was not actually a concept for me, boundaries. I was never taught boundaries. I come from a very abusive family with a lot of like communication issues, boundary issues. So I was always like learned from the start that um, my uh, my needs were not important. That others people's needs and feelings were more important than mine. So my boundaries were constantly overstepped. So I was programmed from childhood to accept that from everyone.
Mhm.
So it was a concept like difficult for me because I was not feeling comfortable with certain situations, and I was forced to accept them, or not a force, but I was like felt that I was forced to accept them. So like that is why how I like drove through life, and all my experiences accepting uh, a lot of bad things towards me. So then, like 5 years ago, I started going to a therapist because, well, I listened to boundaries, and then you said it's saying no, right? But it's you can say no, but saying no, that doesn't mean you are setting a boundary. You can say no, but people can still step in that boundary, right? So I think boundaries is like, yeah, you draw a line, you put a limit on something, but you also need to reinforce that there's something's going to happen if someone crosses that line. And I think that's the important part of the boundaries that we are not taught about. So when I started going to therapy 5 years ago, like because I was dealing like I was out of an abusive relationship for 2 years, and I was still struggling with setting boundaries. And it was a very abusive relationship. I was 15 years with a narcissist. So you can understand that 15 years dealing with a narcissist is like leaves you destroyed internally,
Mhm.
and you're not able to like step up for yourself. And so I continued to struggle with saying no and accepting everything. So at work, for example, I tend to please everyone, and they called me at 12 at like a.m. in the morning, and I was sleeping, and I took the call because someone was calling from work, and I stopped sleeping because someone needed something from me. Like if someone needed help, I couldn't say no and say, yeah, I'm gonna do everything. So I was burning out because I was accepting everything, and I was accepting mistreatment. So I was having an eating disorder because I was also eating a lot, because I was also not having boundaries with myself. So I had a lot of struggles in
Mhm.
life. So I actually reached for help, and I found this amazing therapist that I started going with 5 years ago. And the first thing she taught me was to find the triggers or buttons that were not helping me, or that were like making me uncomfortable and making me sad or overwhelmed. So we started naming those feelings and starting detecting what's overwhelming me, what's making me anxious, because I developed a huge anxiety disorder and depression because of all of this. So
Let me ask
after,
can I ask you something? How
yes,
when you
sure.
how long did it take you to go through and actually find those points?
It's a process. So like the
Okay.
first thing is like I found actually a very funny picture that I wanted to share with you. I'm going to show you, because she we started working in boundaries since the first session. I don't know if you can see this, but it's like
Yes.
this the actual photo of myself, my first boundary attempt.
Mhm.
So it's
That's a good
like,
picture.
I
yeah,
like
it is,
that.
because it's like she told me you need to say no. And I think the first time, and I was it was the one that I told you about, Kila,
Yeah.
on that call, that I my mom tends to overstep and
Mhm.
shout at me and say mean things to me while I'm at the phone. I don't actually live with them, but she triggers me a lot and she pushes a lot of buttons. And one day I was feeling so disrespected because of what she was saying, that I remembered what my therapist said about, you have to tell her how you feel. So this is making me feel disrespected. If
Mhm.
you continue talking to me like that, I'm gonna hang up. And then she continued talking to me like that, and then I hung up. Like I told you I was gonna hang up, and I hung up. And I was
So
like shaking when I did that. Like
right.
I
I was
couldn't
gonna ask you
believe
how
I
you
was
felt,
doing
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
It was
because
horrible. Yeah. So, and I was like, I can't believe I did that. And I thought like she was gonna call me back and scream and say things. And I was really, really shaking, and I couldn't sleep that day. And I felt so guilty and sad and nervous. But then I saw nothing happen. And actually I felt better because I was like, okay, I could stand up for myself. So
Mhm.
that
right.
was a good feeling. So then you start practicing it a little bit more, and then you just do it in. I started actually more at work, like saying no. I think that's the easiest place to do it because you don't have like these really personal relationships with them normally.
For some.
So it's easy, yeah, for some,
Yeah,
but it's.
for some, not
I
much.
actually, for example, I'm a project manager, so I tend to, I
Yeah.
went with my teams to parties, for example, if they wanted to go eat to a restaurant or things like that. So they started crossing some boundaries, like they started arriving late to meetings, or they started because they thought
Mhm.
like our friendship allowed them to do that.
Mhm.
So they were crossing boundaries. So the first thing that I did was, sorry, like we have a meeting at sometime and I need you to be there. I know we're friends outside the workplace, but here we have to be like we have to follow some rules, and we have like schedules and things like that. So we have a client meeting, we need to be there on time. So I'm sorry, but that's what we're gonna do. So I started being firm at work, and then that helped me like moving everything to other areas of my life. The last area that I was able to do that was with my relationship, like with my husband or
Yeah.
like partner.
Mhm.
That's where I think was harder for me to put in place. I also wanted to teach my kids how to set boundaries, because since I didn't have my that tool myself, I needed to show them how to do it. And so that's, I think, what the first motivator for me, my kids, to do everything that I've been doing lately, like in healing process and
Right.
boundaries.
Yeah. And watching your kids learn that at a younger age, like we were talking on the Zoom call, like with, just about hug sleep, you start now, it's not gonna
Exactly.
be so hard. They're gonna learn what they are and how to set their own boundaries, and it's not gonna come as a shock to anyone because this is how they are.
Yeah. So, for example, when I was a kid, I was bullied a lot and like horribly. And
Mhm.
I was always told, like, you need to accept that and make them love you. Like, you have to make them your friends, and you have to go to the parties even if you don't want to, or you have to try and be their friends. And so that was showing me that my needs are not there. So for example, when
Mhm.
someone disrespects my kid, I always tell him that's not a good behavior, and you should let him know that the behavior is not good and you are not accepting that. And if he continues that, there's going to be something like you're not going to play with him anymore, or you're not going to go with him, or you are not going to do something, because and you need to like stick to what you're saying as a consequence, because if you don't stick to that, they will keep pushing the boundaries. And so I think that's the most important thing. So
That
yeah.
is the most I was gonna say that's the most important.
So I'm going all
And
over the place, but that's like the
no,
main
no, I'm fine.
thing.
No, you're not actually. You're doing great because you're right. That's the most important. You can set them all day long, but if there's no consequences if someone crosses them, then they're no good.
Uh,
Well,
yeah.
and as you're talking, I was thinking what you're what you're instilling in your kids and what you have done for yourself in a lot of ways is carving out your own self-worth, is saying, I'm
Mhm.
like when you set boundary, you're saying, this is my needs and it's okay to express it. It's okay to put these things down because, I'm an individual apart from you, apart from these people, and that's important, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
and especially teaching your kids that. I mean, what a wonderful gift that you're sharing with them to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want him to live the same experiences. I know they are going to live some hard experiences because that's part of life, but I just want to give them the tools to drive their life better. Um, because I didn't have that example in my life, so I would love for them to have them. Um,
You're
and
amazing.
and I think like when we were discussing about boundaries, one of the things that you mentioned was the obstacles that I found. And I think
Right.
the obstacle that I found was more on myself, like my feelings for setting boundaries, because since I was taught that my feelings were not like important enough, I was always very like feeling guilty for setting boundaries. I always thought that people were going to be mad at me because I was setting a boundary, or they were going to be upset, and that felt like made me feel guilty and sad, because I was again, putting their feelings first.
Right, and taking on, in a way, too, that, like, emotional boundary of, like, you're responsible for their feelings. Like,
Exactly.
you can like, if I do this, then I'm responsible for their reaction, right?
Exactly.
Which is, I'm sure it sounds like what some of the what was told to you earlier on.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, they're gonna be sad, but yeah, I'm like, now I say, I'm sorry you feel sad because I'm saying no, but right now I'm overwhelmed. I can't do that, and you need to respect that. And
Yeah.
that's like, it's like saying, I don't. It's not that I don't care. Like, I'm sad that you're sad, but
Mhm.
like, I'm important too. So I'm not gonna neglect myself because you are feeling sad. So since I have to deal with that, you deal with your feelings. So it sounds selfish because like
No.
that's what they teach you. You're being selfish, but actually I'm taking care of me. So my feelings. So if I'm overwhelmed, why should I stress myself more? Or because I'm already overwhelmed. So why should I put myself out there to feel more stressed? No. And it's okay to say I don't want to do that.
Right.
That comes into the emotional boundaries part where, um, what I it's actually on the Facebook page community tab I put on there. I'm not gonna go start messing around and try to pull it up right this second. I should have already had it out. But on the emotional boundaries part, I I have a thing on my wall, a sign on my wall in my bedroom and in my office, and it says, and on my keychain right here, it says, "Not my circus, not my monkeys." And I just actually, if no one wants to listen to when I say, you know, they don't want to listen to when I say, it's enough, and they want to come up and tell me it's not my circus, not my monkeys. My plate is full today.
No,
Simple as
it's
that.
yeah, and that's staying firm when you have that boundary. It's important because like at the beginning I said no, and people tend to push back, especially for at work,
Right.
like I need
Mhm.
this for tomorrow, and I'm like, okay, but I'm like, I'm not able to do so because you want this at 5 and I'm like 4:55, so I'm not able to finish that in the time you wanted. So and then they tend to push and push and push, and you feel bad, and then you accept it because you feel bad. And now I say, like, when I have a lot of things going on at work, for example, my boss tends to send me a pile of things to do. And then and everything's urgent and everything's for tomorrow. So what I say is,
Oh,
okay, I'm only one me. I
mhm.
only have like this amount of hours to work.
Right.
So I can like clone myself. So what do you want to see first? And we'll figure it out the rest because I can't do everything at once. And I'm not going to spend more my family time, my me time for a company that probably will don't give a crap if I leave. Sorry for the word, but if they need to get rid of me, they will because
Mhm.
I'm replaceable. So I'm not doing that again for anyone. So that's like when you start like seeing the worth and how valuable your me time is, how valuable your like mental health is. For me, like now that I feel better, even though I've been dealing with a lot of things lately
You
and
have.
it's been very difficult, like I've remained sane. Like because I take my space, I take my time, I do the things that are helping me heal,
Mhm.
regardless if people like it or not. Because it's me, it's the one. Like if I don't take care of me, no one is going to take care of me. So like I should prioritize me. So when you start understanding that, that click makes you be very firm with your boundaries. So the first thing you need to do also is to reinforce that self-esteem
Mhm.
and the sense of value for yourself, that you are worthy, that you are valuable, that you deserve resting time, you deserve peace, you deserve love, and that you have to fight for that. And
Right.
fighting for that means setting boundaries so people don't overstep. And it can be physical space, like please don't, like I hate people like
Yeah.
invading my my space.
Your
I don't like
personal space.
that. I
Yeah.
hate it. And so I
Your
I
bubble, I call it, right? Your
yes,
My
bubble.
I have a
boo.
bubble and I don't like that. Only people that I really really trust get to hug me because I don't like physical contact because of all my
Yeah.
trauma probably.
Mhm.
But I'd rather stay like away. So when someone invades that, I actually tell them like, you are making me uncomfortable, can you step back please, because you're invading my space. And people look at me like she's rude, but I'm not rude. I'm just being honest about my feelings, and I'm putting me first.
Hmm.
Um,
You
You're
are
right.
a unicorn, my dear, because there's not a lot of people that can say that.
it takes a lot of practice.
Yeah. And it takes, I mean, part of sometimes when we make a change like that, or changes, is as you said about like your call with your mom, that first call, it's being comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's like that's where the change happens. Like if we don't push ourselves to that discomfort level in some ways, and what I mean by discomfort is like for a good reason, right? I mean, it's like
Mhm.
um which is ironic because you said earlier on you were forced to do things that were uncomfortable in situations because you should just do it. Um but this is your choice. It's like I'm going to step outside my comfort zone and start to set boundaries, and it's going to feel uncomfortable for a while, but like you said, practice is with practice comes like it becomes more comfortable, more part of your daily life.
And it
So you hanging up
it
on that,
empowers
like
you.
the first time you hung up on your mom, you saw it. You didn't drop dead. She didn't drop dead. That there was like
Actually,
you weren't struck with lightning. She wasn't struck with lightning. You lived to see the next day, and I think the fear of enforcing those boundaries may sometimes be worse than actually enforcing them.
yeah, but for example, in that case with my mom, like I'm like the therapy, I don't know the approach my therapist does, but she says it's systemic, that if one part of the system changes, then the rest changes with it. So
Mhm.
um, when I started changing the way I was reacting to my mom's response, then our communication, even though she's a narcissist and even though she has a lot of things, started to get a little bit better. So it's more manageable for me. So, for example, I'm here right now with them, and I'm surviving, but it's been difficult. Like she's pushing triggers, and I'm like not engaging because I'm changing some. So I'm setting my boundaries. So the other day she was like really shouting at me, and I was like, if you continue talking to me like that, I'm gonna go walk away. I just don't want to engage in this conversation. When you want to talk like an adult, I'll be back and we can discuss. I'm here. I'm not angry, but I'm gonna go. She continued doing that. I stand up. I left, and after like 10 minutes, she came back and said, "Okay, can we talk?" Yes, we can talk. And then
Wow.
she said what she needed to say. She doesn't even care about my feelings anyway, but at least she didn't come shouting because she knew she was not going to get anywhere by shouting. So even though she needed something and she was
Mhm.
like looking for her, at least I didn't get shouted at. So it was a good thing. So,
Small
and
wins.
it's a
Take the
huge
wins.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I saw like that me, like the changes are in me, in my behavior and how I react to what they do to me,
Hmm.
and it's my choice whether to engage or not. So I sometimes it's very difficult, but it's practicing, and actually that like naming the feelings that you are feeling, like I'm feeling overwhelmed or I'm feeling anxious, like knowing what you're feeling, and that self-awareness takes a lot of practice. But once you start getting like a handle of what you're feeling and what's triggering you, also it helped me that I'm under medication that helps me, like I'm taking antidepressants, so I'm not overwhelmed by my feelings
Hmm.
anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm able to feel the feeling, like process it and let it go without like getting overwhelmed, which is very helpful. But therapy,
Yeah.
I'm they're being reduced, so I'm happy that I'm probably gonna be out of my antidepressants at some point, but we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. I, you know, when you said what you just said about what the medication has helped you with, some people are very hesitant with medication. That's a choice everyone has to make for themselves, between them and their doctor, their provider. But I think for some people it does help that it's like you're so immersed in it that it's hard to kind of step back and do exactly what you just said. Um, right? I mean, just to be able to be feel good enough in a way to just be able to recognize and let process through some of those really difficult emotions. So, um,
Yeah. I, I've so I don't know how to say this because that's so hard for me, and I've already taught you know this. I mean, that's really difficult about it. Work should be the easiest place, but for me, unfortunately, it's not. Um, I did enforce that. I said it, do it. I mean, I am the boss. Don't you? I'm not trying to be rude and ugly. I just don't want you spending more time arguing with me about what I'm trying to say. Then just go do it. Don't sit here and argue with me when don't cross that boundary. I have a boundary like there. If I ask you to do something and I'm not going to be rude and mean about it, I'm going to ask. But when it gets to the point that you're spending more time arguing with me than it would have taken you to do what I've already asked you to do, I do get that's the concept. I said it, now go do it. You have to get a little bit firmer.
Hmm.
I've learned to do that at work. Um, I have set some boundaries at home here. They are the hardest to enforce, but right now they seem to be respected a lot more because I have starting. I'm I I don't know how to say don't do this. It's like here is what we agreed upon, and you're not doing this. So please the next time, can you remember that? And it seems to be working up now with other family members. That's kind of my mom. It's a little more difficult. So there's a struggle, but I see in you from what you're talking about from when you started out putting those boundaries out, seeing that your self worth was worth it, then
Yeah.
to now what I see in you, and that you're very confident about it. And I'm really, really proud of you, and I'm really amazed at how far you've come. I can't hear
Nope,
you.
you're
You're muted.
muted.
You're
Nope.
muted.
There
Sorry,
you go.
my the AirPods stopped working, and
Oh,
I stopped hearing Gretchen, so I had to take them out, and they mute my
oh,
mic.
Oh,
So I was saying, thank you for that.
I'm
Okay.
just really proud of you. There's a growth that I mean, you've told a story, and that's what resonates with me, I guess. The story from not having boundaries, no self worth, to having self worth, to creating boundaries to now. And I just see that story is amazing. And I'm glad that everyone got to hear it. And I thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think boundaries, like it's part of like this is why I want my kids to have them since they are little, because that gives them structure and confidence and a secure environment. Because when I was growing up, I didn't feel safe and I didn't feel protected because like I didn't know what to do. And so I tried to like actually set boundaries for my kids, and actually I also set boundaries for myself because as I said, I have a eating disorder, I have anxiety, I have depression, I have a lot of things. So I also like shop compulsively, or like that's sort of the
mhm.
things that I do. So I also have to put boundaries in me because those things give me comfort at some point because I didn't have that sense of security. So that now that I find them elsewhere, but then I found out that putting boundaries in me, like spend like a spending limit, I can't go over this, and I need to provide this and this and that for my family, or not overeating or eating only healthy food after past time, doing some like allocating 1 hour to do some exercise. So those are boundaries that I set up for myself, and that I tend not to cross because it's also part of my sense of worth and like my security. So
Mm.
I set myself with a routine to do that. So that's also helping me because, as I said, you need to start with you, and the changes are like in you. So when you
Mhm.
do that and you practice that, then you can start taking them like to other levels. And then you don't have to like put something very ambitious there in place. Like I started small, like with that exercise with my mom, or with setting like half an hour work time, or going to bed at 9, like like small things. And then I did it, and it was a sense of like I'm succeeding at something, and I'm good at it. I can do more. And then you take a little bit more, and you take a little bit more, and it starts to get easier. So as I said, you don't try to overwhelm with like, and sometimes you will set a boundary and you won't be successful, and people are going to cross it, and you'll fail it in putting consequence. Okay, that's okay, you're human. Just next time be firm, and make sure that the consequence is there and that you put it in place. And that's going to help you, but it's like, don't feel guilty because you are not good at setting boundaries. I don't think we are not good at setting boundaries. At least I wasn't.
I I think a lot of passive and like, I mean, like, you being raised so pretty much like I was, that you want to make everyone else happy. You don't, everyone else comes first, and it is difficult, but you're sitting there saying it can be done, so it's not impossible, and you have to start somewhere.
And sometimes it's not, um, speaking to your point, uh, is what you said earlier about, like, just starting small, and sometimes it doesn't have to be yes or no directly. It can be,
Mhm.
right, you're communicating what your needs are, right? It can be about, like you said about work, like, I can do that task that you're asking me to do, but or you say in the future, like, "You did it this time, but, like, the next time I can't do this all the time. I need, a day's notice or 2 days' notice, or you need to bring it to me on Monday so it gets done by Friday," or whatever it is, and then you start to communicate back and forth, "Well, we can't wait that long." "Well, how long can you wait?" And maybe you need to get more support then, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, for instance, I have a lot of conversations with people that I work with, and they have problems with boundaries, and I say, how can you start small? And one of the ways is, um, with communication on, like, phone calls or text. And these days, someone texts you and they expect immediate response. It's like, okay, if someone that's really emotionally triggering or intense for you texts you at 9 p.m. and you're trying to wind down for the night, maybe don't put your phone on, or put your, maybe not turn your phone off, but you can do all those things with notifications. Take the notification off and then turn it back on in the morning, or tell the person, "Hey, I'm not gonna be responding to texts, after a certain time." It's not that you won't respond at all, it's just that they have to wait,
That is
and like you said,
actually
Exactly.
some people just have a hard time with that, but
so
over time.
okay.
Yeah.
I have 2 phones, okay? Actually, I have 3, but one's forwarded to this one. Okay, so this was my personal phone, but s because I was always just giving people that number to use, it actually became a work phone, but then the work cell phone is also forwarded to this phone. This is my personal phone now, and I have set some boundaries, which you're speaking of, Gretchen, and I'm very proud of this, because I used to couldn't do it, and now I can. This is on silent when I'm feeling meds, when I am doing business at work. If it's important enough for them to call me on the work phone, it'll go to voicemail, and I will return the call when I am done with what I am working on now. My ADHD brain, I am allowed to focus on one thing. If I want to do it correctly, I have to focus. I can't with all the interruptions. I focus. If that is constantly going off, and it does, then I'm like, oh my God, I get overwhelmed. So I have learned to set
Right.
that boundary. And it was very hard. It was very hard. But that stays on silent until I'm ready to turn it on and deal with what's on that end of the phone. Now, if
Yeah.
it's employees and stuff like that, they know how to get in touch with me. I'm talking about outside world calling into a company. So that's a
I
boundary that I have
silence
set.
everything. My phone is always in silent mode. I like,
Mhm.
if people really need to reach out to me, like, I know who is going to reach out, and if they need to reach out, they call me.
Right.
If I'm, and that's all. Like if they try to get like a hold of me on WhatsApp or Messenger, unless I'm like there, like the chat, I respond. But if I'm busy, I don't respond at all. And
Yeah,
people
and this
sometimes
is my
worry
personal
because I'm
phone.
not responding.
No, but the only reason this one will ring is if it's like my mother or my other half or the kids or something, and then I'll have to pick that up. That's why I got another phone. So I don't have to pick that one up. And I've learned I had anxiety. I mean, I have that anyway, but I had anxiety of, oh my gosh, who was that? Did I miss an important call? Did I miss this? That you know what? Now I
Yeah.
don't care. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
my son's like notifications, those come through because I know if it's an emergency,
Hmm.
he needs to have a way to reach me. But my mom and dad, because my dad is sick, so if something happens, I need to be aware that something's going on. But other than that, like, Like, I don't like, if you need to reach
Mhm.
out to me, just send a message. I'll get back to you when I'm available. And it's
And it's
been
gotten
so
so
good for my
easy.
mental
It
health.
me too. It's so good for me too, and it's gotten so easy.
And actually, I talk to the people that I really want to talk to, which is like, it makes it easier for me. So if I'm talking to you in like in social media or something, I'm like
Mhm.
really, really wanted to talk to you. It's not that I'm like responding because I have fear of rejection or something. No, it's
Yeah,
because I really want that conversation.
One thing I just once happened to, I saw someone saying I feel guilty about setting boundaries. And I want to get to I want to make sure we have time for the questions too. And I want to be
okay.
respectful of your time, um,
Yes.
everyone's time here. But one thing I was just going to mention is you when you said that it was hardest at the end to set boundaries with your partner. Um, I find like some of the messaging, especially how I was raised, like as a woman and then becoming a wife and a mother. Um, that's been really kind of tough. And the reason why is there's this idea that, to be what is it to be quote a good mother and what that means. So I've really struggled with that part. But because I have like a chronic health issue that was diagnosed about 10 years ago, I've had to be very intentional about how I use my energy during the day. So that's actually almost helped me with setting boundaries because I'm like, my son is a night owl kinda like I am, but I'm like, after 9 p.m. or whatever time, I'm like, I'm done, like, parenting. I'm like, I tell him, like, "You can do whatever you want." He's 11 now, he can take care of himself. I'm like, "Unless something's bleeding, broken, or on fire, I'm checked out." Like, I'm just when's the adequate time to go to bed. You know what we say, like, um, and he can take care of himself. Now, if he's 3 years old, a toddler, is different, but
Yeah.
so that I've struggled with because it's like, what it means to be, quote, like a good mother. And some people think that's harsh, but I'm like, I can't be on call 24/7. Now, if he wakes up in the middle of the night and he's sick, of course, I'll help him and be there for him. But it's like that's setting a boundary for me of like, I need my own time to like decompress and
Mhm.
relax. And that's necessary for me to have my sanity.
And then that's
Uh,
Keela calling on the phone.
no, no,
Yeah, the
no.
time difference here, okay? Alright, so
Yeah, you're up all the time. I know that
I know
about you.
that I'm a night owl. I mean, that I function better at night, like,
Yeah.
so but, okay, so here, you wanna take some questions from Mina? You feel like doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, so here we go. Nico, hi, how are you? Lovely to see you, Hamina, and you have such profound and well thought out comments and thoughts.
Thank you so much, Nico.
Yes, Nico is just he is
I always like
always
seeing him write in the chat because I always
yeah,
join and I'm always talking to everyone.
he is great. He is so sweet. Hockey Town John, you are so strong and brave, lovely, whether you know it or not, you are loved.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, I join.
Mhm.
Yes, John is definitely. And guess who's next?
Blake?
Blakey. Blakey. Go ahead, Gretchen. Can you
Okay.
do
Blake, I'm afraid of other people's anger, so it's always been really hard for me to set boundaries. I've been gaslit a lot. Yeah, I hear that. It's hard when you're uncomfortable or with different emotions. How do you deal with that, Hamina? Like, how did you face that anger with
Yes,
people?
anger, guilt trips, a lot of things. Like, and I always say, like, I understand that you're feeling upset because I'm saying no, but I'm not able to do what you want. Maybe we can revisit the topic later, or we'll
Mhm.
see. But I'm not able to do that right now. And
Yeah,
I don't apologize, and you don't know anyone's explanation, and they will get angry, but that's not your responsibility. If they get
right.
upset because you're setting a boundary, then they are not worth the time to discuss. So I've
there you
also learned
go.
that if they are willing to step over your boundaries, they are willing to step over you all the time. So
Good
um,
point.
yeah,
Good point. Good point. All right. Sophia.
I'll read this one.
Sophie.
Yes,
This is
the
Sophie.
physical boundaries are so different in different cultures. Agreed.
Sophie,
Um,
you're right about that. Yeah.
and having said that, I'm sure there's people in any different culture that individually they don't accept some of the boundaries of that culture. Like I'm sure, they prefer other type of physical boundaries.
And that's also difficult when you're dealing with people from other countries. I
Mhm.
work with a lot of foreigners from my like not in my country, but I work with people from India or Ukraine or like a lot of that. So there's different type of communication there. So it's difficult sometimes when they say no. Like they're very harsh. Like people from Ukraine, like no, like they just say no. I'm like,
Mm.
can you do this? No. And sometimes you get like we as Mexicans tend to like over explain sometimes like no because
Mhm.
I'm not able to you do some explanation but no they say no and that I don't want to.
Kind of where my therapist went about it. I said it, do it. I don't have to give you an explanation why. That's
Right.
so, yeah. Let's see. John.
Hockey Down John, question. Sorry if this is off topic, but Ximena, can you explain the significance of the sword dagger charm you're wearing around your neck?
Sure. So I work with candles and angels and that sort of things for healing purposes. And like when I was going through my hardest time. I did one for Mike the Archangel. I don't know. It's,
Hmm.
so yeah, an
Hmm.
angel, and that this is represents his sword. So it represents that he's with me all the time, protecting me from harm.
I
Oh,
like
that's
that.
nice.
I like that. Nice. Thank you. All right. Melody. Harco, I'm sorry. Kind of see here. My attention between work, my 80-year-old mom, and alcoholic daughter. It's so hard to set boundaries. I think this is
Mhm.
perfect for you, Hamina, if you want to.
Yeah, I actually have my partner, my like not the narcissistic one, but the my husband. He's an alcoholic, and actually we've just separated because of a situation. And I think this is the hardest thing that I had to do because I know he's sick, and it's very difficult to set boundaries with them because they overstep them. But it's like unless you're willing to get sober and actually not sober only, but also like heal yourself and recover, you won't be able to step a foot in this house anymore. And I was very firm about it, and I'm still doing that. And I know it's hard, it breaks your heart, but it's something that sometimes we need to be like, sometimes setting the boundaries, not only for you, but also to help other people to get better.
And just to yeah, that's great
That
kind of
is.
input. And then the other thing is, especially I'm sensitive to this with working a lot with people with in a caregiving role. Um, there's nothing wrong with asking for help for respite
No.
care, for people to step in and say, hey, can you help me out? I just need a day or an
Caregiver
afternoon
burnout.
off. Yeah, caregiver burnout's a real thing, and it's
Hmm.
really so on that specific issue, I think that's really important, and that's hard. The
Yeah.
hard thing to do because you have to admit, like, you're not Superwoman or Superman. Like you can't, and that's okay. You know.
Right.
And also when you feel overwhelmed, just in my opinion, probably you should reach for someone to help you if you feel overwhelmed and it's like it gets too much, because I know how to deal with like when you're dealing with someone with in that situation, and especially when you have some sick parent to take care of also, so it gets overwhelming. You need to take care of you first. If
Mhm.
you're not okay, you won't be able to help them anyway. So it's
That's so
important
true.
to do that boundary.
That is so true. My therapist tells me that all the time. If you're not okay, how are you going to make sure everyone else is okay? You have to take care of you first.
Right.
And it's that's a lot, I think, for it's should be so easy to do, but unfortunately I think sometimes that's like one of the difficult things to do. It really truly is. It's difficult for me because I don't want to slow down and stop. If someone needs something, I'm like, want to be there. So, and then you end up with caregiver burnout. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Philosophy. Parenting is really hard. I try to hold myself accountable and apologize if I overreacted, but I also tell my sons that they can tell me if I'm wrong or not listening to them.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. Like also I do the same with my son. Like if I did something that, or my daughter, like I was not behaving good enough because sometimes I'm stressed, I always ask them like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I was not supposed to react like that." And but I'm only human. Let's
Mhm.
try and don't do that
Mhm.
next time. and let's communicate better, and trying to get to a healthier communication.
Yeah.
And I like this. I mean, the fact that we are human. We're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect. And I like what you said actually in the beginning, that it's okay if they step over that boundary. Just the next time, just you have the next time. You give yourself grace for that.
Yeah. And being in the other role, I still remember, and random memory, but I was in third grade, and it was my favorite teacher, maybe for this reason, I don't know. But I think she was pregnant at the time, so now I can kind of relate to that part. But she, she was really like in a bad mood and was kind of short with the whole class and just that. And I just still remember that she came back the next day and said, "You know what? I was not so great yesterday. I'm really sorry for how I was." And I thought, for a teacher to do that and to humble herself in front of the class, and I mean, we're just elementary school kids, but it was a very human experience, and I still remember that to this day. It's like, so when an adult, I think we probably don't appreciate the impact that as adults we have on our little ones that are around us. When we do something like you just said, like when you say, "Hey, sorry I reacted that way," or "I'm sorry that I was, this or that."
I would have
Yeah.
given a lot to have that from my parents. Like, well, like I'm sorry I made you feel like that,
Yeah.
right? And it would have changed so much in me in my life if I like looking back. So I just want to know my kids to know that I'm not perfect and I'm gonna mess up, but I'm trying my best. So, um,
And guess what? It gives them permission to be human too, which is
It does.
important.
mhm.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It really does. Hockeytown John. Perception problem, is a they problem. Why does it always fall to us to change their perspective? It's so maddening.
Mhm.
I
Gretchen, I'm
think,
going to say, or Marina.
Yeah.
well, Gretchen, I think you as this
No,
first.
go ahead. You wanted
Yeah,
to.
this one is kind of
Uh, in my opinion, you don't have to change their perspective. You just need to set the boundary. Whether they change their perspective or not is their problem.
Yep.
Don't make it your problem, because then you are like feeling guilty because you set a boundary. So try to not take that as your responsibility.
Right. I think that's
like that.
oftentimes the narrative that we incorporate in our minds or that other people tell us. But you're right. It's not a stop to change their perspective. It's about asserting what our needs are in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. Sophie. Being nice shouldn't come at the expense of your inner peace.
Yep.
That's great. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
completely
I agree
agree.
with that. I do agree with
Mhm.
that. Okay, Blake Reed, thank you for being brave enough to talk about the subject because some of us have never had practice in setting boundaries or were ever taught they were allowed to. I am
Mhm.
one of them.
And I've also my therapist is a good guidance, but she shared with me a lot of websites or information for me to understand how to set boundaries. So like probably I can share that with you,
Yes, and
or
we have
whoever
some
wants it.
information
Yeah,
too.
I can send some info. Like they actually have the recipe for setting a boundary, like how you feel, the consequence, and then what you should do afterwards, like all of that, and you start practicing it. And there's a lot of good resources out there that may be
Are you
helpful.
talking about those good old I statements? I feel blank when you blank.
Exactly,
In the future,
exactly.
I would appreciate if you blank. Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
did that. I wrote them like at the beginning. Is like when
Yeah.
I needed to set something, I was like in paper
Yeah.
and
That's
always
helpful.
use I instead of you, because you is an attack. So you should always talk about your feelings, and so
Right.
that takes, yeah.
I like that. I like that. Okay, Sophie. I never liked physical touch very much, and people react very offended um, to you not choosing being uncomfortable for their comfort. Okay, somebody read that again, please. My eyes were just
Yeah, I will.
yeah.
I never liked physical touch very much, and people react very offended to you not choosing being uncomfortable for their comfort. In other words, if they want to give you a hug or something, right, and you don't feel comfortable, like you'd be
Mhm.
uncomfortable with that. So you saying no to hugs, like Amina was saying, like that's they get offended by it. And I think that is true. I've had conversations with different family members that are less like they don't prefer to hug. They're just not hugging type people. And I think culturally a lot of times it's almost seen as like a greeting and for some for a greeting and a way to say goodbye. Um, but yeah, being sensitive to that. And it's not if you don't hug someone, it's not like a closeness issue, right? It's not like you can't that you're not close to them. It's just um
Yeah, it's
I
yeah.
used to love the
okay.
pandemic so much because of the like distancing.
The distance.
Yeah.
Mexican people are very like love to hug, love to kiss. Hate that. Hate that. Like you go somewhere and you have to kiss everyone hello and then kiss everyone goodbye and hate it. So I said I'm used to the pandemic ways, so I don't hug people.
Um, Sophie, I think she's trying to say, she said, yes, Sophia. In my experience, when they are used to using you and you cut them off, they always gaslight.
Mm.
And I
So
think that
felt,
comes back to what I'm saying about the if they don't respect the boundary, then they shouldn't be there. Like they are gonna do that every time, every day. So yeah, there's not worth it fighting for.
Yeah. They should respect if they care about you, they should care about all of you and including set, caring about your needs.
right. Lee J, a colleague said about a work boundary yesterday, and I thought it was hard. She felt
Thought
good about it today.
and thought it was hard. Yeah.
Oh, and thought it
Okay.
was hard. I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. You probably have to read Gretchen. My eyes are really dry right
Okay,
now.
I will. So a colleague at work today or said a work see I can't. A colleague set a work boundary yesterday and thought it was hard. She felt good about it today. And sometimes that can happen, right? Yeah. That's great.
Okay, let's see. Um, and this is from Nico. Go ahead.
It can be healthy to have office hours in private life too. You need personal space and time. Yeah.
See, I work from home so a lot. So yeah, when that door is closed, that's one of my boundaries. When that door is closed, please do not open it or do not knock. I mean, if you want to come and say I'm home, but that is a boundary that I have set and I stick by it. If my door is closed, my office door is closed, that means that I'm not available. And I had
See,
to
And
set
you're
that boundary.
really good at boundaries too.
yeah.
That's a
That
good
was
boundary,
hard. That was
I
hard,
know, but you did
but
it,
I've enforced it and now he respects
and you should be proud that it's still in place.
it.
Yeah, right. And
Because
and that
yeah.
what do you think if it wasn't respected about putting a lock, a padlock on the door, right? From the
Yeah, I'm putting
inside.
every piece of furniture in here, trying to move it. No.
Right,
Just
right.
kidding, honey, if you're watching. Okay, there is Sophie.
Okay, I told my dad months ago he doesn't get to character assassination me anymore. I hung up and I'll never speak to him again. I felt good to finally stand up for myself. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
That's
and
a good
Love
thing.
It. Here's from Love It.
Hamina, I'd love to know some more about your candles. Thank you for being so brave and open today.
Sure, I can talk about it other day. Or you can reach out to
Hey,
me. I can explain. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, Love It. She's got Messenger. I will get y'all connected. Yes, I will. She knows it's over. Okay.
DJ Nico, Hamina, I was almost expecting you to do the work of Archangel Raphael more as you deal with healing too.
So no, I do work with him sometimes, depending on the ritual. I work more with Sadkiel, which is the transmutation one, which is the one. He's my actually my because of my day of the week. But yeah, I work with all of them. Depends
That's
on the
interesting.
intentions.
We got to have you back on about that.
I know there seems to be a lot of questions about that area of your life, right?
They are
Yeah.
awesome, miracle
So
workers.
definitely have to have you back on for that one. Okay, here's Nico.
DJ Nico, after I learned about the expression Darwo, I have realized how much I have been subjected to that. Therapy has started to open new views and doors in life and helping to set new boundaries. That's good. That's great,
Great. That's
Nico.
great, Nico. That is really
I'm
great.
glad you're getting that.
Robin. Hi, Robin.
Hey,
Mhm.
Robin. Long time here. And Hamina, you are a testament to our upbringings. Do not define us. You are so brave, and I'm proud of your growth and strength.
Thank you so much, Robin. Love you, girl.
Absolutely. And let's see here we have Catherine J.
I'm realizing why I'm realizing why I'm such a people pleaser due to needing to please a mom with anger issues. Reading Gabor Mate and learning how
Oh
we
yeah.
had to give up our authentic self to survive childhood. Yeah, I know, Keela, you can speak to that, right? Gabor
Oh
Mate.
yes. Yes, I'm telling you, he was the best thing since sliced bread, as they say in the South. When I was introduced to his work, I really enjoy him. I enjoy learning from him. I enjoy listening to him speak. I enjoy reading everything I can about him because he is the closest thing that I have ever found um, that practices and believes the way that we actually do at my facility, where my for my mental health residents and my hospice patients. We don't treat mind and body separate. We treat the mind and the body because the brain is part of your body. I've said this a million times on here, and he teaches that exact concept. Your mind, your brain is part of your body, and he also goes as far as saying that the physical illnesses that we actually have as adults or as teenagers all stem from that childhood and adolescent where those missing pieces or where that trauma was or where it's just I like the way that he speaks and he teaches, and I that's the way we do things. We try to treat the mind, the body, it's all one,
Hmm.
and he does the same thing, and so that's why I find him so interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, we have one more. Didn't mean to get on the soapbox. I really enjoy listening to him.
No, it's great.
Blake.
Blake, music for me is my one true escape. I have a huge issue with guilt in that it's almost inescapable. And when I set boundaries, it triggers that intense guilt in me. Music helps transport me elsewhere.
And that's
Yeah,
good that
music.
you have something to go to.
Mhm. Oh,
Okay, I'm gonna say this, and we have a mental health matters channel, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say something personal that I was taught by someone very close to me, and I mean she's my mom has been a registered nurse in mental health my entire life since and she taught me one thing: guilt is a useless emotion. Now, that's probably going to be a big trigger and everybody's going to disagree with me, but the context in which she was teaching me that was when, like, oh, I feel guilty because I wasn't there when they passed away, or, I wasn't there when it's, you can't go change that. So why are you feeling up? You only have this much of you. Why are you filling it up with guilt? It's useless. Get rid of it. Pour in something else that can help you go succeed and go further. You're not going backwards. You cannot go back and change that. So guilt is useless, and that is what I've been taught my whole life. I know that's probably not true. That's probably not what everyone believes. That's just something I've been taught. That guilt is a useless emotion because people can use it to use you. They can use guilt to make you do things, and so
mhm.
get rid of the guilt. Gretchen, what would you say about that?
Yeah, I look at a lot of emotions in the context of like I think I said this another day, but with curiosity as like it's there to signal something for us. Like, what are we going to learn from that? So, and for Blake, I mean, just looking at that and seeing like instead of trying to either hold on to the guilt, get rid of the guilt, push down the guilt, distract ourselves. We do all a bunch of stuff with different emotions. Um, just look at it and say, hey, like, what is this guilt about? And like you said, kind of in the same respect, in a way, is there some reason why I'm holding on to this guilt? Like, what is it? Why am I?
Mhm.
Why do I have this hanging around? Same thing with anger. Same thing with sadness. There's certain emotions. All emotions are kind of fleeting. They'll come in and go out, and just as well as happiness, but why is some sticking with us for a while? Just being aware
Right.
of it and curious about it, I guess. And if it's
Yeah. Like,
helpful, I mean, some things in our life, like just like you said about boundaries, I mean, sometimes people don't respect our boundaries. Well, then maybe they're not meant to be in our lives right now. They cross our boundaries and they're not respecting us. But same thing with emotions. If they're not helpful and kind of what Keela said, if they're not there to help us learn something or grow, then we got to be
yeah.
aware of that too.
And
I would
let's see.
agree if you're not repressing the guilt. So
Mm,
my therapist always told me like not repress my feelings. So if I'm feeling
right,
guilty, I'll need to understand why I'm feeling
right.
guilty, process and let it go. Like,
Hmm.
but I need to work with my emotion first without repressing it. Because sometimes if we repress it, the guilt will still be there. I'm just ignoring it and it will raise at some point. So you need to deal with that guilt. So maybe
Yeah.
just meditating, trying to like that's helped me in my experience. I'm not a therapist. I'm not giving advice. Like that's what has helped
Yeah.
me as a
No,
patient.
that's
But
what you're, let's see. Go ahead.
Love it. Comment. I read a book many years ago that's spite natural guilt, hurting someone on purpose, and artificial guilt. It was not intended to hurt someone. Oh, okay. So kind of the difference between the two. Am I get
Okay.
am I reading that right? That natural guilt is
Yeah.
hurting someone on purpose, or is it artificial guilt? No, it's artificial. Okay,
It
I see.
wasn't artificial guilt
Natural
was the
guilt.
intent.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Love it.
That's a good distinction.
Yeah. Um, let's see. I had
One
saw,
more.
let's see. I'm gonna see what this is real quick. Kathy Ann.
Kathy Ann, and do you feel that guilt on your own, or has that been put on you by someone or a group? They can tell you that, or they can tell you a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's directed at Blake. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then he
Yeah.
responds,
Yeah.
if I
And
could
then
just read that one.
so right
I
here.
think guilt for
Yeah.
me is a learned behavior. My biggest issue with my parents is that they would never let me try to fix my mistake to make it better after I made it. I only got their disappointment. Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry for you on that one
Yeah, Blake.
because that's
Yeah, that
hard.
one. It definitely is. So, um, and I'm just gonna pop this one up and then I'll be
Mhm.
through. I'll quit. That's from Sophie.
This makes me think of the Catholic guilt or original sin controlling systems. Okay.
yeah, this is work in my like my ex-husband, the narcissistic one. He made me feel guilty about a lot of things in order to control me. So that's a part of control. So this is why it's important to process your feeling because it's like, is it something that I did wrong, really,
Hmm.
or like, and I feel like upset about it, or is it something that like um, Katie says um, that it's provoked by someone else. So that's not good. And
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what she said.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, okay, well, yes, we will be respectful of you. Everybody in the, I want to say something really quick to everybody in the chat. I'm so sorry that I wasn't on the live chat. I was only on the starred questions because my mind, I didn't want to get unfocused for Ximena being here. And I'm so glad that she was here. But I really do thank you all for putting your questions in because it's nice to know that you're interested.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
So,
And I like some of
yeah.
the discussion. I've been reading some of them back and forth, and there's a
Okay.
lot of I really appreciate the folks that join our chat and give each other support and give each other encouragement because that's part of kind of the goal of this is to bring to
Yes.
light more awareness and deep dive into different mental health issues that affect people
Yeah.
and to I'm glad that people are supportive and I don't um I mean I wouldn't expect anything less from this group, right? Everyone's very
No.
supportive.
I am going to want to say to everybody in the chat too, and I mean, you please, you are all welcome to go to if you haven't already in the Mental Health Matters Facebook group. Then it's the I'm sure the mods have been posting it, but also it's in the on the community page. Uh, if you go there, there's going to be a lot. of peer support, interaction, like you be able.
Yeah.
We don't want it just to stop with this. Move, you can take it over to the Facebook group, and there's so much support over there. I have, I mean, like Gretchen has got that set up amazing over there.
And I might post some more stuff about boundaries on that because I think this is a topic that's really
Yes.
important and to continue to have discussions about. So,
Yeah, and it's we're gonna open up some more chats. Like we do have 2 chats right now. And I mean, thank you so much for all you do in there. I do see you in there with a lot of them. Thank you so much.
mhm.
And we can take input, open up some more chats. Like we're wanting, the different categories here. So we could open one on boundaries. We can open one, just on different things. We wanted to see, because we are new, how it was going to go, but it seems to be going great. Gretchen, what do you think?
Yeah. I've been kind of looking over things. Yeah, I think people are, it's like anything. It takes a while to kind of get up and start it and evolve. So, and that's fine. That's what we want. We want it to happen more organically. We don't want to force anything.
Yeah.
So, um, but again, I want to say I really appreciate you coming on today and spending some time with us.
I really
Um,
appreciate you having me here. Thank you.
mhm.
Yeah, we and everybody coming in, I thank y'all so much. Mods, once again, you're amazing. Kathy Ann in the back, Hockey Town John, thank you so much. Gretchen, thank you. I know that you
Thank
take
you.
this time out of your day, and we're gonna have a few shows lives coming up really
Mhm.
quick. I think Thursday. I mean, if you can stick around, if you don't have any plans after we end, if you can stay there.
Sure.
Okay, okay. Um, we have on, and now let my mind go to work. Today is what?
Mandy is coming
Okay,
on,
so
right? Thursday, I
Mandy
think.
will be on Thursday. Yes, Mandy
Mhm.
will be on, and they will be speaking about informed, uh,
Trauma informed care, Mandy will be,
trauma
yeah,
informed care. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and
which would be
then
great.
what do we have after that? We have Sunday. We
Next
have Brian.
Sunday, we do have Brian on Sunday, you're right, and he'll be
We're gonna do
part
his part
2.
two,
Yep,
and then I think on Monday we have our very own Hockey Town John.
loaded up. Loaded up
Yes,
with
we
lots of
are.
hair.
So
Um,
y'all get ready. We're gonna be here for a while.
yeah.
I'll be there in every one of those chats, especially Monday with John.
I
Yeah.
know. Yes, yes.
So I was just gonna ask you, your time difference, is it the same? I mean, are you on, Central Time there where you're at?
Normally, we should be central, but the president decided to not have the daylight savings time anymore this year.
Okay.
So I'm 1 hour behind you. So it's 3:19 for me.
Oh,
Okay,
okay, got
it's
it.
4:19 for me.
But if
It's
It's
you
19 for
say
me.
me that,
2:19, 2:34.
but I normally like do everything on central time because
Okay.
my clients do that. So I'm central. So
Oh, okay, I
just
was just
give me central
curious.
time, and that's my yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay.
yeah, so y'all do it.
Random
Okay.
random random question,
No, I
but
was wondering the same thing. I just forgot to ask.
okay.
So, and
So,
then
all
Hockey
right.
Town John's 5. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5.
5:19 here, okay.
Oh
11:19
wow.
PM in,
Nico.
oh my
Wow.
gosh, in Sweden. On Suecia, there we go. Throwing in
Yeah,
a
well, I
little bit
wanted
of Espanol there.
Yeah.
I know I wanted y'all to speak a little bit
I
of things, but
I'm
you know,
nervous. I'm nervous.
You
come
should
on,
do it. I speak
ask her
English. Why
something,
don't you
Ximena.
speak Spanish? I can help with. I told you, Kila. I will be glad
You're
to
gonna
help you
have
with
to help me, but
everything.
I want to
Yeah.
hear this. I just wanted one little conversation.
Um, let's see, what would I say? Gracias por hablar con nosotras hoy y no sé, ¿qué
Muy,
más?
muy bien. Excellent. It was really, really well. Like, yeah, everything. Thank you. Thank you. Gracias por
So see,
tenerme aquí.
we got bilingual.
All
Muchas
right.
gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Yeah, de nada.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I know de nada.
All right.
All right,
All
but
right.
yes, thank you, mods. Thank you, chat. Thank you. I mean, if you'll stay there, and Gretchen, thank you once
Okay.
again,
Take
and
care.
we will see you all later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank